Bore da Cynhadlydd, Good Morning Conference. Diolch o galw yn am y cyfle I siarad â chi heddiw. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name's Lisa, and I'm married to Carwyn. And I just wanted to share with you a little bit about the man behind the politician. I've known Carwyn for well over a quarter of a century now, so I think I'm qualified to reveal a few home truths. Carwyn and I both went to Aberystwyth University and studied law together at the same time, but we moved in completely different circles and didn't speak a word to each other until one night our paths crossed in a club in Cardiff, famous for its dark corners and very sticky carpets. Some of you may know the place I'm referring to. And since that fateful night, we've shared many experiences, both good and bad, and here we are still standing. We both admitted to each other years later that we secretly knew in our hearts after the first couple of dates we were going to end up together. So something just clicked with us, we knew. So out of curiosity, I asked Carwyn, what was it about me that attracted him? And he said it was because I was exotic. Now, that doesn't mean to say that up until that time, I'd been shimmying around Cardiff in nothing but flower garlands and a grass skirt. No, that would have certainly cleared the streets. He thought I was exotic because I was from Belfast, because I could speak Irish, because he thought I'd had an extraordinary childhood living through and unwittingly being affected by the Troubles. And this made me laugh. Me, exotic? Sure, I'm just the girl from the Antrim Road. But it made me realise that Carwyn always looks beyond the obvious to see the story behind the story. He can empathise with people because he senses what lies beneath and what the real issues are. And this is a trait that he shows in home and in his work. Carwyn loves his children, Sarah and Rory, very, very much. And all the time that he spends with them is pure quality. He's very close to his father, Carwyn, who's a great support to us as a family. He's also a voracious reader. And the rare time he relaxes, his head is in a book, or rather an iPad these days, usually reading something light, like, History of Stalingrad or something like that. Very, very, interested in history and food. Those are his two topics that he likes reading about. He's also a great cook, and he loves seeking out new recipes to try out. And recently, we had an Argentinian-themed meal on Valentine's Day. I have to say, he certainly won my heart with that one. Possibly my vote. I'm still working on that one. But Carwyn, if you're listening, Argentina's on my bucket list. Please. I still haven't been there yet. You've got to take me, and the meal not going to quite wash with me yet. So he's also a natural storyteller, but his groundings are in fact. Never underestimate his skills as a cross-examiner, especially when it comes to debate in Irish history or looking into our accounts and various expenditures I've made in certain shops. I can never get out of that one. And I never concern myself about our travel arrangements when we're on holiday. He's a fastidious organiser and pedantic about public transport abroad, as his colleagues will no doubt confirm. Having to know exactly where and when the local bus or train arrives, each stop in order of time of arrival at our destination, it's all very annoying, but it is very useful at the same time. When we were on our honeymoon in Mexico City, he knew exactly which stand to go into in the airport to get a taxi to take us to our hotel, which wasn't in the official guide, but was going to be cheap. So once we were installed in the back of the Volkswagen Beetle, which had the front seat ripped out for ease of entrance, and we realised once we saw the rosary beads hanging from the rearview mirror what was in store for us as the driver, just drove at a manic speed through traffic and cheated death at every junction. And we just looked at each other and knew it's all or nothing at this point. And that's Carwyn all over. He gives his all, whether it's with work or family. And politics for him, it's a calling, it's a vocation. Ever since those days in Aberystwyth when, he did have a bit of a reputation for being a political animal, hanging around the Union. And then he served as one of the youngest councillors in Bridgend County Borough Council. He campaigned for an assembly for Wales. He was then selected as a successful candidate for his hometown of Bridgend and sat in the first assembly in 1999. Then he was promoted to Minister of Agriculture and progressed through various briefs until finally he was elected in 2009 as First Minister. It was a very, very hard And as you know, that was a really difficult time for us as a family because Janice, his mother, my lovely, funny mother-in-law, was very seriously ill and died shortly after. But he did all this with unstinting passion and conviction. Felly dwi'n falch iawn I groesawu i'r llwyfan, fy nŵr, fy ffrind gorau, ac fy ysbrydoliaeth i'r llwyfan. I'm therefore very proud to welcome my husband, best friend and inspiration to the platform, Carwyn Jones.
Wow, follow that. Thanks, Lise, for those wonderful words. I will remind you of them when you're telling me off for having forgotten to take something down a dump on a Sunday morning. But we've come a long way, I know, in the years we've been married, and I know that to come up and speak like that was quite something. So many thanks, really, for what you said. And conference, it's great to be back here in Llandudno. I'd like to start by thanking Jeremy for being here today, his inspirational words this morning, and for his commitment to a Welsh Labour win. To Nia, of course, our Shadow Secretary of State for Wales, and campaigner extraordinaire. Thank you for everything you do fighting Wales's corner in Westminster. And also to our retiring AMs, I'm going to miss you all. The Assembly will miss you. Wales will miss you. But I know you'll be supporting our superb new candidates and our Welsh Labour team in winning again in May. Thank you all for your hard work. It's always, of course, a great pleasure to be able to speak here in Llandudno. I remember before we met here in 2011, speaking to some of the staff at Welsh Labour, they said they wanted to do something a bit different with the branding and do something focused on me. Now, I'd not been leader for very long, and I suppose they wanted to cash in on that fresh-faced optimism. And I said, fine, it's a bit odd, a bit uncomfortable for me, but do what you think will work as long as it isn't too over the top. They said, great, don't worry, it'll be very understated. So what did I see when I walked in that first morning? A banner of me outside, some 30 feet tall. I think the BBC nicknamed it Carwynzilla. Now, believe me, in this job, you get used to the brickbats, the criticism and the worry, but you really don't know what self-doubt is until you've seen your own face made 5 feet wide. I did ask if Lisa wanted to keep it. She laughed, harshly. And apparently, we've now used it to wrap up the headstone somewhere on the South Coast. But anyway, I'm very glad that we've got some more traditional Welsh Labour branding on show today. Now, ar nodyn mwy difrifol, mae'n werth mynd yn ôl i'r foment honno yn 2010, pan wnaethon ni gasglu yn y fan hon I fyfyrio ar yr hyn ddywedwyd gennym ar yr adeg honno. Roedd y twried wedi bod mewn grym yn San Steffan am 9 mis, ac eisoes roedden nhw wedi mynd ati I chwalu ffabric cymdeithasol Prydain Racs. Ymysodiad ar ôl ymysodiad ar ein cymunedau yn gwastraffu cyfleoedd ac aberthu'r syniad sylfaenol o degwch ar allor cynildeb. Roedden ni yn Llafur Cymru yn gwybod bod gennym anferth o gyfrifoldeb ar ein hysgwyddau a fe wnaethon ni addo I sefyll cornel Cymru a ni wedi wneud hynny. On a more serious note, it's worth going back to that moment in 2011 when we gathered here to reflect on what we said at that time. The Tories had been in power in Westminster for 9 months, and already they'd set about wrecking the social fabric of Britain. Attack after attack on our communities, laying waste to opportunity and the basic notion of fairness that was sacrificed on the altar of austerity. We, in Welsh Labour, knew that we had a mighty responsibility on our shoulders. We promised to stand up for Wales, and we did it. When the Tories cut our budget, we made tough choices in order to protect the NHS and our schools, spending more on education and health than is the case in England. When the Tories closed down Remploy, we said, no, We stood with our disabled workers, and we helped to save jobs. When the Tories tried to slash the pay of farm workers, we said no. We went to the Supreme Court and won a victory for fairness and a worker's right to a decent wage. When the Tories trebled tuition fees for students, we stepped in and said to young people in Wales, we will pay the difference because we believe in your future. And do you know what makes me more proud than anything else that we did? When the Tories cut the Future Jobs Fund, when they took away a lifeline to young people in the very teeth of the recession, when people needed a helping hand more than ever before. We didn't stand idly by and point the finger of blame. We created Jobs Growth Wales, and now 15,000 young people have been given the chance to work. Welsh Labour did that, and don't let anyone forget it. Now, the Tories are trying to foist on us a Wales bill that will drag us backwards. It'll drag power back to Westminster, undermine the devolution settlement, and give power to faceless bureaucrats in Whitehall. And we'll say no to that too. The constitutional wrangle has gone on for long enough. Even I'm bored of it now, and I'm more fond than most of a constitutional debate, but this mess has to stop. The Wales Bill debacle is just another result of Cameron's chaos in Westminster. This is the Prime Minister who almost lost Scotland. And the pantomime we've just witnessed in Brussels has done little to help the in campaign for the European referendum. He's instigated unprecedented junior doctor strikes in England, and his constant undermining of the settled will of the Welsh people is a gift to the otherwise moribund nationalist movement in Wales. It's time to send a message to David Cameron that Wales is not a second-class nation. Wales will not put up with second best, and Welsh Labour will fight you every step of the way. The Tories have never been a friend to Wales, and week after week, we've seen them try to use our communities to set the agenda in London. When they lied about our NHS, we called them out, and now we have the international evidence to support our case. We stood up for Wales. We still do stand up for Wales, and every day we'll fight the corner for our country. But we know that now we need to do more. In 2011, I promised a decade of delivery, a 10-year focus on the bread and butter issues that matter to people's everyday lives. There's no question that in the early days of devolution, our young assembly became an ideas factory of inventive policy. The foundation phase, the Welsh back, free bus passes, a cap on care charges, ideas that we've kept and refined and that will deliver for our young people. Now, ours is the task to combine ideas with delivery. That's the mission of my political lifetime, to deliver on that early promise. And that's why we've made some tough decisions, and we've taken some flack. School tests, many were skeptical, but for the parents and children, it was the right thing to do. Tuition fees policy, some didn't like it, some still don't, but for our students, it was the right thing to do. Betsy Cadwallader Health Board in special measures, a step we'd never taken before, but it was a step that was right for the patients of North Wales. I've not been afraid of the tough decisions over the last 5 years, and I won't be afraid to make more in the next 5 years, because this is a government ready to stand up to vested interests. And since 2011, and despite the Tory cuts, we've made enormous progress. Since 2011, pupils' GCSE results have risen by 7.8%. Results for pupils from the most disadvantaged backgrounds have increased faster still. A-star results at A-level are the highest they've ever been. The poverty attainment gap is now closing at every key stage of statutory education. Cancer survival rates are improving faster in Wales than anywhere else in the UK, even as more and more people are being diagnosed. In Wales, the numbers of people suffering delayed transfers of care are coming down. In England, they're at record levels. And next year, we will be training more nurses than ever before, the highest since devolution, a 10% increase on this year. In 2011, unemployment was at 9.3%. Now it's at 5.3%, lower than Scotland, lower than Northern Ireland, lower than London. Our inward investment figures are the best for 30 years. In the 6 years and a bit that I've been First Minister, I've left no stone unturned in getting out and selling Wales to the world. And in these last 5 years, the world has come to Wales. Our record inward investment figures make a mockery of those who'd want to return to the days of the Welsh Development Agency. The biggest dip that Wales ever saw in our GDP happened in the so-called halcyon days of the WDA, in the late 1980s and early 1990s. The jobs that did come in were secured over expensive lunches with promises of a low-pay economy. They were here today, but gone tomorrow jobs. But my ministers have been out and fought for the best, good jobs, decent wages. We're not interested in waiting for scraps from the table. Wales is on the up. And on every measure that matters, and yes, despite the record cut to our budget, we're doing better. And it's because we're getting the basics right. It means that our people and our institutions have more opportunity to shine. Wales is on the up. Wales is on the map. We are halfway through that decade of delivery and making progress every day. The momentum we're seeing in our schools, our hospitals, and our economy can only now be scuppered by a change in political direction in the Assembly. Now, you know that I'm not in the habit of agreeing with Andrew R.T. Davis. Who's that, somebody said. Well, look, for those of you who don't know him, and there's no reason why you should, he's the Tory leader in the National Assembly. But he said two things in response to some recent polls, which I totally agree with. He said that the Tories are the only alternative to Welsh Labour in the Assembly. And he's also said that it's a straight fight between me and him for who will be the next First Minister of Wales. And he's dead right on both counts. Sure, there are distractions on the sidelines, not least from UKIP, but we can never lose sight of the fact that this election is a straight fight between us and the Tories, our vision and values against theirs. And that's not a fight the people of Wales can afford us to lose. So, together, for Wales, we must make our case more clearly, more passionately, and more persuasively than ever before. We've achieved so much, but there's much more to do. So, we've made 6 new promises to the people of Wales. 30 hours of free childcare for working parents, covering not just 38 weeks of the year as elsewhere in the UK, but 48 weeks' worth of care for 3- and 4-year-olds. Our commitment doesn't centre on what government wants to deliver, it centres on what parents actually need. And this will supplement the Flying Start scheme we've already in place in our most disadvantaged communities. This is an investment not just in working families, in our children's future, but in our economy too. We know how hard it is for so many working mothers in particular to get back to work, and today's commitment will make family life that much easier. With Welsh Labour, Wales can have the most ambitious, the most comprehensive childcare offer in the UK. That's something to fight for. Last year, Wales recorded our best ever GCSE results. Thanks to our Schools Challenge Cymru programme, some of our most challenged schools reported increases of over 10% on their good GCSE results. But when it comes to our children, we can't ever be too ambitious. And so we commit to establishing a £100 million school standards fund to improve still further on the results our pupils and teachers are achieving together. With Welsh Labour, we can prove that all schools can be good schools, and that is something to fight for. And when people finish their education, they have a right to a good job, with excellent training and good prospects. That's why a future Welsh Labour government will pledge to fund 100,000 extra apprentices by the end of the next Assembly. That scheme will be open to all ages, and it means that everyone has the opportunity to fulfil their potential in the workplace. As far as possible, we'll meet that challenge of a good job closer to home. With Welsh Labour, good quality work and training, that's something to fight for. We know that small businesses are the lifeblood of our economy, of our communities, and our high streets too. So we'll give a tax break to all small businesses in Wales using our new powers on business rates. This will help 3/4 of business premises in Wales, and half of all eligible businesses will pay no business rates at all in the future. The message we get from SMEs is for government to keep it simple and to let them get on with it. This level of support will do exactly that. No red tape, no complicated forms, just a helping hand in tough times. With Welsh Labour, a business-friendly government on your side. Conference, that's something to fight for. Conference will develop a new treatment fund in Wales to ensure that people suffering life-threatening conditions can have access to the latest medicine and treatment. We know that new technology, medicines and treatments represent a serious challenge to NHS budgets, just as they also represent a new lifeline to seriously ill patients. We know these treatments are being developed and tested on an almost weekly basis, and this dedicated central fund would enable the most advanced drugs and high-cost treatments for life-threatening illnesses to be available in Wales first, not just for cancer, but other conditions such as cystic fibrosis and multiple sclerosis. With Welsh Labour, an NHS that will stay free from privatisation but keep pace with modernisation, and that's something to fight for. Finally, we believe that people in old age who need extra help, those who played fair and paid in, they deserve a fairer deal. So we'll double the capital limit they'll be allowed to keep on the sale of their home should they need to go into care. That's £50,000 that people can now pass on to their family. They've earned it. They should be allowed to use it. With Welsh Labour, responsibility rewarded. That's the kind of Wales I believe in, where those that put in a decent shift get a fair deal. Conference, those are the 6 pledges we announced this week, which we will take to the people of Wales. But I want to add to that today. I can say with absolute certainty that when income tax powers are devolved to Wales, there will be no tax rises under the Welsh Labour government after May. This again will demonstrate responsibility rewarded. If you work hard, we're going to stand with you and be there in the tough times, working together for Wales. And as we're in the north of Wales, I have one more pledge to share with you today. If we form the next government, that just as the southeast of our country will get the metro project, so too we'll start planning for the north to get its own integrated transport system. Our vision is to create a reliable, efficient and quality integrated transport network across the region that will connect people to communities, jobs and services. And when additional powers over rail are devolved, we will have the tools to develop a truly integrated system, faster and more frequent trains to major employment centres and to the airports of the northwest of England, improved train stations, a reliable bus network, combined ticketing arrangements and walking and cycling routes that link communities. Integrated travel hubs would facilitate travel across the region. And we know that the A55 is, of course, a key trunk road, and we'll continue to invest in improving its resilience. That's what will happen if we form the next government. We need, of course, to be very clear in our own minds about the challenge ahead of us in May. This will be our toughest ever Assembly election campaign, coming off the back of a difficult general election, trying to manage the record cut to our budget, fighting a Tory government doing everything they can to undermine us, and for another reason too, the UKIP challenge. It is very real. It isn't going away, and the general election showed us, in Wales in particular, just how badly it can hit us in seats we hold. So how do we answer this challenge? What will UKIP do to our politics? Well, it can do one of two things. It can challenge us to be better or worse. It could make us change our message, to tone down our positive, progressive, internationalist values, to mimic UKIP, to offer a red tinge to the answers they give on the issues of immigration, Europe, and community cohesion. We could give in to the trumpetization of politics, the kids people on, and let them think there really are easy answers to tough questions. But to respond in that way, I think, would make our politics worse. Or it can challenge us to do better, to be better, not to give anyone in our communities the excuse to turn to UKIP, to make sure that mantra, you're all the same, you always break all your promises, to make sure that's never ever true of us. To make sure that the NHS is there for people, to make sure our cities, our towns, our villages are a source of pride, to make sure there's housing for those who need it, and above all, to create jobs, good jobs, accessible to all, as local as we can make them with good pay, good prospects, and decent training. Faced with a UKIP challenge, that's the path that Labour must take, to listen harder to what people are telling us, work harder to earn their trust, and to do better at delivering for them. That's the right response. That's the Welsh Labour response. Because I can tell you, conference, the answer doesn't lie in the gutter, but in raising our game. Let those people thinking about voting UKIP hear that message loud and clear today. We've heard your complaint. We promise to listen to you and to deliver for you. Now, other parties will seek to define us in the months ahead. Their attacks will be lazy. You can write them now. They'll say we've had long enough, it's time for a change. Well, the last time I checked, democratic politics doesn't work on the basis of Muggins' turn. If you want power, you have to compete for it and win the people over. You have to win the battle of ideas. You have to have a compelling vision for Wales that's ambitious, deliverable, and affordable. And I make no apology for Welsh Labour wanting to win that contest again and again, and I make no apology for saying we are going all out for another win in May. So, let me tell you about the Welsh Labour Party I'm proud to lead. We are a party that knows the true meaning of the word aspiration. That's not a word that belongs to a home counties focus group, it belongs to us all. My mum and dad wanted the best for me, and I want the best for my kids, as we all do. It's the most natural instinct in the world, and we in Labour need to be proud of our role in helping everyone realise their ambitions. People aspire to have a decent roof over their heads, and that's why we're going to end the right to buy in the next Assembly. Maybe you're ready to buy your first home, and that's why we established and will extend the Help to Buy scheme. People want the very best start for their young children, but don't have the networks or money to do the classes, the parents' groups, and the coffee mornings that bring others together. And that's where our new childcare scheme, allied with Flying Start, comes in, making sure all parents, all children have access to the best practice and best facilities at that crucial age. Some people aspire to set up and run their own business. That's why we've established a new £50 million entrepreneurial fund, and it's why we'll cut business rates. Depending on where you are on life's journey, your ambitions and your aspirations will be different. But Welsh Labour believes that government has a role in helping people to achieve. We are not, and never will be, like the Tories, the sink or swim party. Together for Wales. That's a phrase that really means something to us in this hall. We need to make sure that it means something to everyone in every corner of Wales before this election campaign is done. It feels as if I've already been to every town and village in Wales, a few times over, and I'll do so again. This is the bit we got into politics to do, to make our case, meet the people, make a difference. And that's what we need you to do over the coming months. This week, I was with our excellent candidate for Llanelli, Lee Waters. It was a brilliant visit to a local nursery to talk about our childcare pledge. And a young girl there in a tutu took a real shine to Lee. She kept running up to him and wouldn't let him go. He went a very traditional Labour red. Now, Lee's a great candidate, but I'm not sure he's ever suffered from being overhugged before. But that's what the campaign trail is all about. It's where you really experience the fun side of life. I was with Jane Hutt later in the week, and she took me on the famous High Street tour of Barry. Now, for a socialist of true renown, I don't think I've ever seen someone on first-name terms with so many business owners. One tip, though, if you're in the deli, it's a fantastic deli on High Street in Barry, it has a sideline that specialises in joke and novelty party food. Don't eat the so-called rhubarb and custard creams. I've not experienced anything that sour since the last Katie Hopkin column. But that pledge to cut tax for those high street businesses was just music to the ears of the people we met. Because running a small business is a labor of love, it really is. Small margins make a big difference. Do you take someone on? Do you take the risk? And our pledge will help businesses say yes to those questions. Just yesterday, I was with Anne Jones in Sam's Learning Tree Nursery in Rhyl. I talked with Michelle, who runs the nursery, about the difference Flying Start is making to so many families in Wales. And we know that our childcare pledge is going to make a massive difference to families the length and breadth of Wales. It'll help so many mums in particular to get back to work. And thanks to what we've done in recent years, we know there are jobs there waiting for them too. Nid Cymru yn unig arweiniom ni drwy'r storm economaidd. Nid goroesi'r toriadau yn unig wnaethon ni, fe wnaethon ni'n well na hynny. Fe wnaethon ni newid Cymru er gwell. Fe wnaethon ni sicrhau fod Cymru yn frand byd eang. Fe wnaethon ni estyn llaw i'r diwaith. Wnaethon ni achub ein maes awyr cenedlaethol. Wnaethon ni roi cyflog byw wedi warantu i bobl yn ein gwasanaeth iechyd cenedlaethol. Fe wnaethon ni ddweud na i ffracio ac ie i ynni glân. Fe wnaethon ni hyn i gyd a llawer mwy gyda Llywodraeth Dwriaidd yn ceisio chwalu'r cyfan yn racs o San Steffan. Ond mae angen i ni wneud mwy, gwneud hyn i gyd eto, gwneud yn well fyth. Ni hynny'r ffordd trwyddo'r degawd cyflawni ac mae angen cadw'r momentum. We didn't just take Wales through the economic storm. We didn't just weather the cuts, we did better than that. We changed Wales for the better. We made Wales a global brand. We gave our unemployed a helping hand. We saved our national airport. We gave everyone in the NHS a guaranteed living wage. We said no to fracking and yes to clean energy. And we did all this, and so much more, with a Tory government trying to wreck it all from Westminster. But we need to do more, to do it all again, to do better still. We're halfway through that decade of delivery and we can't afford to let the momentum go now. The pledges we've made this week show that we have the ideas, the energy and the passion to win again and to govern again. I'm incredibly proud to be First Minister of Wales, incredibly proud to be Welsh Labour leader. It means more to me than I can tell you, and it's something I will never ever take for granted. And I know just how tough this election is going to be. Every one of us will have to play our part, to pull together, to work together, to campaign together. But our future is bright. Our best days are ahead. Let's get out there, win the arguments, door by door, street by street, and win a better future for our country. And we'll do that by working and campaigning together for Wales. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.